Here now to discuss House Ways and Means Committee member and Florida Congressman Greg Steube. Congressman, it's nice to see you. All right, the fraud conversation continues. I love to see when you've got an administration member on the ground in California saying that you found fraudulent borrowers, you're going to prosecute them. That's great. One piece that never comes into this, though, is how do the taxpayers get any of their money back? Is that, Congressman, is that possible in some way, shape, or form that some of these guys have to repay this or the states have to repay it?
Yeah, it'll be possible when the DOJ goes through their prosecution of all these different individuals. I mean, this fraud is rampant. Secretary Bessent was on Capitol Hill this past week and thinks that about 10% of our taxpayer dollars through these different programs go to fraud. I bet it's higher than that, because as the Trump administration digs in on all of these different programs, whether it be SNAP, whether it be SBA, whether it be the IRA, or whatever the agency is, like we're seeing in Minneapolis, we're seeing rampant fraud to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars that is being just taken away. So as they investigate these crimes and they find these individuals, when they prosecute these individuals, there should be restitution ordered. Now, the question is going to be, is the money still around, or has it been sent to other countries? Has it been sent some other place? But there absolutely should be restitution ordered in some of these cases.
You know, Congressman, we're talking about fraud that stems from the COVID era from 2020. We know that Nick Shirley, investigative YouTube journalist, went to Minneapolis and found a substantial amount of fraud in a short order. Why has it taken so long?
Well, it takes a period of time to get the assets on the ground, to get people there to be able to investigate these crimes. I'm very happy that somebody like Nick Shirley did the work that he did, because I think that opened up a pretty big box for investigative DOJ members and the FBI to come in and do what they need to do to investigate all of these different issues. But it takes people like that to highlight the things that are going on. Finally, we have an administration that's focused on ensuring that our taxpayer dollars are actually going to the people that need it. We had DOJ that obviously identified a lot of these issues. We have a DOJ committee in Congress, and I hope by putting and highlighting and focusing on these issues, we can get the fraud out. I mean, think of how much money we'll save on the debt and the deficit if 10% of our budget is going to fraudulent payments, and we can recapture some of that, at the very least, stop those expenditures from going out. That's really going to help us from a spending perspective in Washington.
We need a lot of help from a spending perspective, as you know. I want to move
about
on
$39 trillion in help.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
That's a big number. Okay, I want to talk to you about this. Two Democrats are refusing to sit for DOJ interviews. They're part of this so-called Seditious Six. You know, you got to disobey illegal orders video that they made for members of our armed forces. They don't want to talk about it with the DOJ. It seems like when you're an elected official and you're saying something like this to the men and women who serve and are in harm's way, you ought to talk to the DOJ if they've got some questions for you about why you're telling these guys to potentially disobey orders. Now, they see it differently, Congressman, but I just kind of wonder how you think this plays out.
Yeah, the hypocrisy is kind of interesting when they're telling individual service members to disobey orders. And, oh, by the way, Trump has never issued an unlawful order, but they're refusing to comply with lawful, legal DOJ requests. So they're telling you to do one thing and doing another when it comes to cooperating with the DOJ. I mean, the interesting thing about this is you have the D.C. AG who's kind of investigating this, and to get an indictment there, if they get a grand jury indictment on certain crimes there, that speaks a lot, because the majority of those people are obviously Democrat who live in the district. So to get some type of investigation going, I think is very worthwhile. But the hypocrisy in all of this is interesting, that if you didn't do anything wrong, then why wouldn't you cooperate with the DOJ in their investigation?
So, Congressman, what should happen to these two lawmakers who are refusing to comply?
Well, there's going to be, if they're not complying with the DOJ's request, then the DOJ will probably move forward with subpoenas to get the information that they're after. But that's not going to look good for them as it goes into a grand jury or it goes into some type of prosecution. Obviously, this is all political. I mean, this was a political stunt to try to undermine the commander-in-chief of our military at a time when our military is seeing record recruitment. Our military is doing wonderful things across the globe, like going in and capturing a drug trafficker in Maduro, taking out Iran's nuclear programs, all of the things that the military has done. And you have a bunch of Democrats who are trying to undermine the commander-in-chief. And some of them like the Senator Kelly, are still on the government payroll and still have an active rank within the reserves. So that can be extremely troubling. When I left the military and went into politics, if you were still active duty or you were still in the reserves, your words mattered and you were still comparable to the UCMJ, and you still have to comply with the UCMJ.
Right.
So some of these individuals might have some problems with the UCMJ.
Yeah, they're playing real fast and loose with things that have serious consequences, and I think they ought to answer for that. Congressman, we got to leave it there. Great to see you. Thanks for taking time to be with us
Yeah, you
today.
too. Anytime.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.